In this example, I want to go ahead and look at how do I set up a web server on a Windows EC2 instance. So in our previous video, we looked at how do we set up a Windows EC2 instance and how do we connect to it using remote desktop. And now this time I want to take it a step further and install a web server. And in addition to the web server, how do I manage that web server and get files out there? So we're using this EC2 instance. We set up our instance type as T2 medium. There is some cost associated with it, but it's a much faster instance. So I'm going to go ahead and take the instance state and start it. And while that's initializing, so it's basically like that server is shut down, it's starting up. So as it's pending instance state, it'll eventually go to started, and then it'll go through the status checks. Eventually, we should be able to connect to it using our remote desktop tool to access that server. Okay, so now it's started, it's running, it's initializing the status checks, things are good there. I should be able to go down to remote desktop. So here's remote desktop, and I have this Windows EC2 instance. It tells me it couldn't connect to that, and the reason why it's not able to connect to that instance is what ends up happening is that public DNS entry changes every time. So when I start and stop the instance, it's going to change the instance type. So I can come in and edit it now, and I'm just going to go ahead and change it to whatever it is. I know the administrator account. I'm going to save it, and now I'm going to try to connect again. So all I did is change the public DNS entry because I had stopped the instance, and now I'm restarting it. Okay, so the last time we set this up, we didn't really do anything with the server other than we turned off the Internet Explorer Enhanced Security for Administrators, and we installed Google Chrome, and really that's more just a preference thing because I want to be able to work on the server. What I want to do now is I want to install a web server, and the web server that I'm going to use, I could use Apache, so I could download and install Apache for Windows, but honestly, if I was going to do that, I'd probably be using some kind of Linux variant to do it because it's free, and it's just kind of a more standard setup. Since I'm using a Windows server, I'm going to use the built-in Windows web server, which is IIS. Okay, and the way I'm going to install that is if I go to the server roles, so this server manager right here, and then my local server. And what I want to do is I want to manage this, and I want to add roles and features. So right here I want to come up to the manage and add roles and features. It's going to basically inspect my computer, so role-based or feature-based installation. Select a server from a server pool. So I'm connected to the local server, that's fine, we're good there. And then it gives me a list of roles that are available for me to install on the server. So Windows servers can really act as anything. So I could say this is a Active Directory server. I could say it's a DNS server. I could say it's a DHCP server. I could say that it's a server that does all of those things. In this case, though, what I really want is this web server. So IIS and the management tools. And then I'm going to choose the features that I want to install. So right now it's telling me it's going to install the .NET Framework 4.6. Okay, and it's not going to install ASP.NET. So I typically will choose that. I may choose the .NET 3.5 framework as well. Most of the time I will. I might want to install the SMTP server. That'll be managed through IIS as well. But for the most part, I think that I'm actually all set up there for any kind of .NET hosting. Okay, and then I'm going to just kind of click next through all of it. Okay, and it's basically saying, do you need to change anything? Do you need to install this or customize the install in any way? And I think I'm okay. And now it's going to tell me that I'm installing features, and it's going to take a few minutes for this to complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this video while these features are getting installed, and then we'll kind of jump to the end. Okay, so now the feature installation is complete, and we should be able to then close this. And one of the features that got installed as a result of us installing a web server is the IIS Management Console. So the IIS Management Console is going to be an important tool. It's under the, I'm actually just going to search for it. So I'm just searching for IIS, and I'm just going to search for internet. And I haven't used it in a while, so bear with me here. So I think maybe under Windows Administrative Tools, and then here's the Internet Information Services Manager, this IIS Manager. I usually like to put that as pinned to my Start menu. So I'm just going to right click on that and pin it to my Start menu. And this is the tool that we use to manage IIS. So if you're familiar with Linux and you're familiar with Apache, Apache has a bunch of different config files that will allow you to manage virtual directories and websites and basically who can access which files from your web server. Microsoft's a little bit more sophisticated about it. It uses this tool and it gives you this graphical user interface to kind of do that web server administration. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up now. Okay, and we're administering this server. And there's a couple of things going on here. The way this works is an application pool basically defines some rules about how the application is going to run. So if I go into basic settings, it tells me which version of the .NET framework is it using and which pipeline, and start the pool. So those are the basic settings. If I right click again and go into the advanced settings, then it tells me other information like what's the identity, what's the timeout, how many worker threads I can use, kind of all of that stuff. Recycling, so if my application's not in use, it'll automatically restart the web server or that application pool. So we start with application pools, and then we have different sites that we're hosting, and the site itself is bound to an application pool. So basically we're saying we have a website, and the application pool is going to define the identity of that website so that your website has access to resources. It's basically that website's credentials on the system, on your network. If I right click on the website and go to, I don't think it's under Manage Websites. It might be under Advanced Settings. It might be under Basic Settings as well. But here is where you'll notice that it says we're associated with the default app pool. It also tells us the physical file location of where our website's going to be located. So you'll see it's on the system drive and inetpub under www root. So what that's saying is when I come out to a browser, so if I go out to Google Chrome and I go to localhost, so I want to access the web server on the local machine, you'll see that I get IIS. It's a kind of a splash screen. That splash screen is rendering content from the C drive under the inetpub www root directory. And this is the file that's actually getting rendered. And there must be an image in here that's set up to run. Okay. So if you remember back to our Linux video where we installed a web server on Linux and we had to copy over our files from our host machine to our EC2 instance, what we used was SCP to move those files back and forth between our host and our EC2 instance with Windows, we get a little bit of nicety, if you will. So I'm in remote desktop right now, and my remote desktop instance is in full screen. So if I tab, I can switch over to my host operating system. So this is my host operating system, and then here's my remote desktop operating or instance. I can click on that, and right now it's in full screen. What I want to do is I want to switch out of full screen. Okay, so now I have my remote desktop manager and I have my AWS console and stuff like that. I'm just going to bring up my desktop. So here's my desktop, and here's the HTML file that I used on my Linux instance, along with my PHP file that I used on my Linux instance. What I can do is I can take that HTML file and just drag and drop it. And I don't know if I have it configured, so I should be able to drag and drop, but I probably can't. And if I go back to my remote desktop service, under properties, there's settings in here about how do I there's settings in here about if I can actually copy and paste. So here's information about that remote desktop. So the display, start the session in full screen, great if I want to, fine if I don't want to. Devices and audio. So it'll keep my clipboard, but I don't know that that's necessarily what I want. So I guess it's fine if I keep my clipboard. And it also has folders that I have access to, so I can set up folders that I'd want to have access to that would show up on my remote operating system. I think just the fact that it has my clipboard is probably going to be fine. So it won't allow me to copy and paste, but I should be able to come over to my desktop, and I'm just going to right click on that and copy it. And then I'm going to go back to my Windows instance and I want to paste it. Okay, so I'm just able to copy and paste. And I can enable drag and drop. If you're in a Windows operating system, I think it's automatically enabled, but since I'm using remote desktop on my Mac, I'm running into issues there. So now if I go to localhost, you'll notice that it's rendering my index file. Okay, and a couple of things going on there. I brought my index file over from my host operating system over to my guest operating system, but I actually want to look at IIS. Okay, and if I go to my website, so that's this guy right here, there's the default document, and you'll see the way the default document gets rendered out. It looks for a file named default.htm, and if it finds it, great, it'll render it. If it doesn't, it goes on to the next file, and then the next file, and then finally it finds index.html because I just put it in place. I copied it from my host operating system to my EC2 instance, so the HTML file is there. So it found it and rendered it, and then it skipped the IIS start, which was getting rendered previously because that was what was in the web server root directory. Okay, so now we have a web server set up to host ASP.NET web applications on a Windows server hosted in EC2. The last step to this is I want to be able to see this web server from a remote browser. So I have this public IP address over here that I could use. I'm going to go back over to my host operating system now. And I have Chrome minimized. And the idea here again is I have this public DNS entry, and I should be able to see that HTML file that I wanted to see, but it's going to fail because there's a Windows firewall rule set up to block incoming traffic. So what I want to do again is I have this instance highlighted. If I scroll down on the left, there's the network and security, and I have the inbound rules and outbound rules. So here's the inbound rules. I'll allow port 3389, which is the remote desktop port. So I'll allow remote desktop to access my Windows server, but that's it. So what I want to do is I want to change that. So I want to change my security group. And I can't remember what security group was associated with that, so I'm going to hop back. So I select my instance. I see the security group that was associated with it, which was Launch Wizard 3. So now if I go into my network settings and go to my security groups, so I want Launch Wizard 3, that's this one. And I have inbound rules allowing for remote desktop protocol. I want to edit the inbound rules, and I want to add a rule, and I want HTTP traffic to be allowed, and I'm going to save that rule. Okay, so the inbound security rules changed. Before it was timing out, now you'll notice that it's rendering out my website. So now I have a Windows server with the firewall port hole opened for port 80 HTTP traffic so that I can see my web server that's running on an EC2 instance using Windows Server 2016. So right now all we're rendering out is an HTML page because I don't want to get into any .NET code and worry about any of the .NET code that would be required to host that application on my web server.